Okay, I've got a lot to talk about. So welcome to my spoiler-filled video review of the film Glass, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and this is it. This was the big film, 19 years in the making, the sequel to Split and Unbreakable, and you can check out my spoiler-free video, so be warned. This is where the fun happens, basically. I get to talk about all the stuff that happened in this film. This is a spoiler-filled, ending explained type of video. Remember to put your opinions and your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you think about the whole ending, about the film in general? But anyway, the beginning. I want to explain how brilliant the beginning is. The first half an hour of this film is spectacular. It was such a great thing to do to reintroduce David Dunn's character once again, explain what he's been doing, where he has been, how he's been doing. It's been 19 years since Unbreakable. But David Dunn, his character, I guess, his superhero persona is all over the news. He owns his own security company. His life has come together, and I think it's a great touch that the son has come back for this film as well. 19 years, the same actor. And you can see it in his eyes, and it's a great relationship between the father and the son, communicating with him all the time, letting him know what's going on. It's like he is the protector, basically. He is literally telling him where to go. But the first encounter with the beast is just incredible. It's literally amazing. It was so cool. The first time he touches the beast in his arm, first time he touches Hedwig, I was so nervous. I was so hooked into the film. I wanted to know what's going to happen. It was the first showdown between the two superhuman personas, and it was everything that I wanted, really, leading up to that thing. It was just so nerve-wracking. There was a lot of CGI which seemed a little tacky. I think it was trying too hard. I'm not really sure, but I still enjoyed it. I think it was still great to see these universes in one film. The action is not bad at all. It was not trying that hard, but then we obviously get caught by Sarah Paulson's character. I can't really remember her name. She is a psychiatric lady. That's what I'm going to call her from now on. But this was her intro. This is where we find out about her, like what her job is. And at first I hated her character. I just hated it. It's just the fact that I did not like the fact that her character obviously is doubting all these abilities, doubting all these superhuman personas. And she did a fine job with her performance. You know, we're in this, this is where the second act basically is. This is where the second act sort of comes together. It's a slow-paced act, and mostly it's held within the psychiatric ward. And this is when the three sit down. The three main heroes sit down and they have a talk about what's going on. She says that it's all in their mind. It's coincidental. Like for example, to Dunn, what if these traumas cause you to believe? Basically, you're just so strong and you're not trained, but very, very good at what you're doing. It's coincidental, and because of how lucky he was with the train wreck happened 19 years ago, he thinks that he's unbreakable. That is her point. And the best thing about this film, the best thing about the second act and that scene itself is it doesn't just make the character think, it makes the audience think as well. What if this is the big twist that Shyamalan is teasing towards the third act? That it's all just, what if that is the revelation itself? It makes the audience think a lot. Is this what they're doing? Are they going to show things that we've not seen from the last two films to make it all come together? I don't know, but I was feeling very nervous. And then Casey Cook's character sort of comes into mind. I was struggling to sort of find out as to what was the main link in her being in this film. I think I'm a huge fan of Anya Taylor-Joy. She is spectacular in horror films. She is a queen in horror, basically. I think that's what you call it. Can't remember. But she did a great job in this film, much as in Split as well. I think we see more of her character develop in this film, whereas in Split. But I just wanted more information as to why she was really brought up in. I think we briefly sort of find out that Sarah Paulson's character needs Casey Cook to convince Kevin to come out. The thing about the second act, and what I love about the second act, is how slow-paced it is, but there's not much spoilers if you think about it. It's all just there, and it's just between you and the screen, and you're watching it all. You don't really have to think that much, but just sort of dive into these amazing characters. Speaking of which, James McAvoy, I'm going to say this again, he is just outstanding in this film. He is so good that obviously you see all those 20 personalities and they're all so different. The fact that he does that is just it's just such masterwork. And I think the great thing about it is Hedwig's character is hilarious once again. There was actually a scene where Sarah Paulson and James McAvoy are obviously communicating, and it's Hedwig and the psychiatric lady. And I swear that there was a moment where Sarah Paulson was literally about to laugh or sort of smirk. You can see it right here, really. That's how good McAvoy actually is. But I want to also look at Sarah Paulson's character as well. Sarah Paulson is a great actress. She is really, really good. And her performance was fine in this film. I just didn't really bond with the character as much as I wanted to bond with the other characters. She seemed a little uninteresting to me. That's the thing. And I'm not having a go at her performance at all. I think she's very, very good. She was just a little dull in this film as a character as a whole. I think everything that we need to find out about her, we find out in the third act, which isn't what I want. I want it to be progressive throughout the entire film. But I want to get to the third act. This is it. This is where the big thing where people have a problem with this film, the third act. And I agree. I do agree, and I understand why people have a problem, but let's dive more into it. Okay, so the third act. David Dunn's character seems so at the back this entire act. I feel like he shines the most in the first part of this film, which I described as brilliant, and probably arguably the best part of this film. But the rest, he could have just done so much more. It seems like it's focused on him being in the background, and he's obviously locked up in his cell, and he seems to doubt himself if he is a superhero. And obviously, Sarah Paulson is a psychiatric lady. She has gotten into these people's heads. Not just David Dunn's, but Patricia's as well. And Samuel Jackson is just lurking, really. He's just lurking in the background. He's just sort of, he doesn't mean, obviously not saying much, but I feel like I will get back to his character very, very soon. But let's focus on David Dunn. He could have just put so much more emotion to it when he's trying to break down the door. If you guys know that scene, when he's trying to break down the door, I feel like that scene could have been the big power scene. I feel like that scene could have been the big homage to Unbreakable itself, that film itself, and much of a masterpiece that is. It could have been so much more dramatic, you know. For once, just put on the Unbreakable soundtrack, and that's the thing that I did not like at all. Where the lack of soundtrack in this film, or the lack of, well, good soundtrack. I was disappointed in the soundtrack. I was let down, and I wanted more of James Newton Howard's score, and you get that, but very, very briefly. And I feel like it could have been perfect for that scene itself, where he's trying to break down the door and join in the massive showdown. But there was nothing like that, and I was very let down by it. And it could have been a perfect opportunity for the audience to just get so excited about the third act, but we weren't. I guess we weren't. The film tells us that we are going towards that building, that big skyscraper, where Elijah will destroy that building while the Beast and David Dunn fight. But the big showdown happens at the front area of the psychiatric ward, with the building in the background. And I'm thinking, like, okay, so if the building is in the background, are they going to go to it, or is this it? Or is this it? And that's the thing. I did not have a problem with the showdown taking place outside the psychiatric ward. I did not have a problem, because if Shyamalan did this massive epic showdown in a massive building, this would be a Marvel film. This really would, but it wasn't. It's just, it seemed very misleading. And I'm not sure if this was done on purpose or whatnot, but it's just, my mind's very conflicted at this point. It just seemed very, very messy. But anyways, the action was good. The editing was all over the place, but the action was pretty good. We get a shot of Casey, the psychiatric lady. Glass is doing something in his wheelchair. The civilians trapped up in vans. The action scenes are done pretty well. It's just a lot of things are happening at once and you're trying to struggle, and that's the thing. David Dunn, I'm not really sure what he's doing, but like I said, where he's in the background of throughout most of this film, I don't understand what he was doing in the third act. He is bending steel, trapping, obviously trying to keep these civilians safe. But dude, you have a beast to worry about. Focus on him. What do you do? It's just... That footage obviously will come in handy towards the end of the film as well. It all wraps up. It just was not satisfying. But I want to dive in more towards the cinematography of the action scenes. There were a lot of shots just in your face, or more like in the actor's face. The point of view shots really were not necessary. It did not work for me. I feel like it could have been halted to just a small amount of that, but they used it for the first action scene towards the beginning, and they used it again over here, and it just seemed very unprofessional. It was like a what was the thing? A GoPro camera just in your face. But we get to the big reveal. This is the big revelation. This is when I was thinking, okay, this is it. This is the big Shyamalan twist. Could this be it? We find out that there is a big revelation to Kevin's character, that the train that his father was on was the same train that Elijah blew up, and the same train that David Dunn was in, but he was the only sole survivor. And I gotta tell you, man, when I saw that, I was shocked. I was very shocked. Shyamalan did that amazingly. The big reveal and a slow camera movements panning towards David Dunn's seat, fantastic. I was literally about to get up and give a standing ovation, honestly. It's just the way that it builds up to that was not done very well, and not done very smoothly. And it took away some of that emotion, but nonetheless, looking at that just alone was great, and I was really happy about that. The link was very, very shocking. It all links together, basically. Kevin's dad, his father was on that train, and if it hadn't have been for Elijah who blew up that train, Kevin would not been the beast. And it's because of that led to him becoming this massive beast. But what I'm wondering, if this is a plot hole, I'm not really sure. But we find out, obviously, at the end of Unbreakable, that David Dunn was responsible for locking Elijah Wood in prison. He's responsible, and that was all over the news. That was all over the news. And I'm thinking, Kevin must have known about that. Kevin must have known that Elijah was responsible for his father's death. Am I missing something? I'm not really sure. Maybe it's the dissociative disorder. Perhaps they are quite forgetful. I'm not perhaps sure. Comment down below, what do you guys think? But I was thinking if this was a plot hole or not, because it wouldn't have made that much sense. He must remember the murderer of his father. But yes, my reaction, I actually remember I was in the cinema and I was watching this, and I knew straight away that Kevin's dad was in the same train, because it all looked so familiar. The flashbacks were done pretty well. I must say the flashbacks were done well. Could it have been better? Perhaps more if the third act and some of the second act were executed more better. But nonetheless, that scene just was very shocking. I remember I was seeing it and I just went, oh my God. And I remember these two people who were sitting beside me that I didn't know were looking at me just like, what's he doing? Like, why is he reacting like that. It's like this massive thing. But it told me that they did not watch Unbreakable, so they didn't really know what was going on. And that's the thing that I must reiterate, that you have to watch the last two films to really understand this one. I can't stress that enough. Throughout the film, we have a lot of flashbacks, and I'm thinking that all these flashbacks from Unbreakable were the film's deleted scenes from the DVD. And I think that was a very smart way for Shyamalan to utilize those scenes for the future. And so I think it was a very, very cool thing to save those towards a future project like this. And he executed it quite well. Did it work all the time? Perhaps not, because of some of the technical problems with the film, but that was pretty cool to see, and so that was quite exciting for me. This does lead to something very, very cool, and the Beast turning sides. He punches Glass in the chest, just punches him in the chest, and that's what he has to do to avenge his father. It's like he has become a hero himself, avenging his father's death. And so obviously, of how weak Mr. Glass is, of how fragile he is, the punches towards his chest and his shoulders practically fatally wound him. So Glass is killed by the Beast. This is where the film just turns it around once again. This is where I got quite frustrated, and I felt like this was unforgivable. After punching Glass in the chest, at the same time Dunn steps up to defend Glass. They continue their fight. Dunn and Beast continue their fight, and it leads to the whole water container thing, and then they hop out of the other side of it, and at this point Dunn is choking from all that water because water is his weakness. This leads to the SWAT team arriving, and Casey manages, and I feel like Casey's big motivation in this film perhaps was to get Kevin to come out, for his personality to come out, and she was ordered to do that by Sarah Paulson's character. This is where the execution of it, oh god. Casey manages to get Kevin out of there, and which leads to the fatal gunshot. James McAvoy's character is shot, he's wounded, and that's what happens. He's shot through the chest, and that's his character done. He's dead. But that's not even the problem that I have. This is what happens. The problem that I have is the next thing that happens. So we know that Glass is going to die. We know that the Beast is going to die. Kevin's going to die. David Dunn is killed in the most pathetic way possible in a film. One of the worst death scenes that I have seen in a superhero film, basically. It was just done so disappointingly. Someone puts a boot over his head, and Sarah Paulson comes towards David Dunn and is saying, hey, take my hand. And this is the big twist, the big revelation of what she's been doing, what her big motivation was this entire film. That she's working within a secret organization that are ordered to prevent from superheroes being on this world. And she, as her job, is to convince these superheroes to make them believe that this is all coincidental, that they are not superheroes, and that it's all in their mind. Because she failed to make them believe that, she kills them. She is the main villain of this film. She is the main antagonist of this film, and David Dunn finds out about this, obviously through his vision and through taking her hand. She finds that out, and she's pretty much saying, hey, take my hand, it's nothing personal, you could have done whatever you were doing, but I had to do my thing, so you need to drown in this puddle, in this massive water. So yeah, how could you? It was very frustrating. David Dunn is an iconic character, and Unbreakable was his film. Unbreakable was his film. And now you're telling me that he dies like this? I mean, Mr. Glass has a final monologue with his mother. His mother explained to him how spectacular he was, that how he had a place in this world. McAvoy smashes it out of the park. He has his monologue with a lot of more of those personalities coming out for him, and he dies. But David Dunn's death, drowning in a puddle by some random person just putting his head through that puddle and a camera underneath his face, shooting his death. That is the big goodbye. No line, no monologue, nothing. That's how he dies. That was a massive letdown for me. But then we realized another twist, another Shyamalan twist, another big reveal. The main twist of this entire film is that Glass did have a master plan after all. And I think that his role in this entire film was misdirection, basically. He uses all those hundreds and hundreds of cameras throughout the entire psychiatric ward, especially for the cameras outside the building as well. He utilizes them to shoot all these footage for evidence of these superhuman abilities. And he uses them and he hacks into the computer and sends the footage to Joe, Cassie, and the mum. So the final actual scene is the three sidekicks, Cassie, Joe, and the mum. They get together, they have coffee in the train station, and they have sent this footage to the internet. It's on the internet, it's hit there, and the big thing is that they are waiting there, they are holding each other's hands, and they are literally noticing that people are watching this footage throughout the internet, which implies that that Glass has pretty much made more superhumans in this entire world. Last final scene of this entire film is obviously Cassie, the mum, and Joe. They get coffee together and they are looking out in the train station. They're looking out for all these people watching their phones to look at the footage that's been released onto the internet. They just randomly have coffee together, and I'm thinking, that's how, did they even meet each other? Like, how are they just casually having coffee? They are sitting with the mother of a psychopath who was responsible for killing hundreds and hundreds of people in a train, and they're just randomly having coffee. Am I missing something? It just doesn't add up. It just does not make sense to me. And what? So people now know about the existence of superheroes, superhuman abilities. And so the thing is, what I've learned is that the scenario of where there is a worse villain than the people that we thought were villains, all three of those characters, Glass, Kevin, and David Dunn, they're all heroes, really, if you think about it. The Beast avenges his father's death, so he becomes a hero. Dunn, although he is defeated, he's been a hero this entire time. And Glass is defeated, but Glass gets to be a hero as well, because he is responsible for more heroes for the future. And he is responsible for those heroes being revealed to the world. And now the agency is now exposed, and he's done his job, basically. And I think the big thing about taking away from this film is, although I found the ending and everything to be very different, and I did not really personally I did not like the ending. I respect the ending. It's just, to me, that wasn't even the problem. The problem was how it was executed. And if it was executed in a more better way, then we wouldn't really have this problem. The big thing is that this is 19 years in the making, and you're telling me that there's 19 years of hype ends with David Dunn being drowned in the most pathetic way? And I think I've sort of wrapped up this whole spoiler thing. I hope I have made my point across. I think the thing that I can say mostly overall is I enjoyed Glass. I think it's a good film. I certainly do not agree with some of the reception that has been receiving. I was very just curious to find out why people did not like Glass that much for it to be received this rating, 30%. That does not deserve it at all. I think people just really did not like the ending at all. But it doesn't mean that you should completely just crap on the entire film. I think it's a good film. It's my least favorite of the entire trilogy, but I did enjoy it. I think there were some parts that I love, some parts that I did not, like I just told you in this entire video. But I gave it a B- for my rating. I want to start obviously grading films now in this year. So guys, well, what did you think about Glass? Have you seen it yet? I mean, of course you have because you're watching this video, but feel free to just jot your comments down below. Go crazy, honestly, go crazy. Go see my spoiler-free video. And thank you very much. And I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you.